In my past life, my younger sister, whom I had raised through thick and thin, got pregnant during her summer job. At that time, she was just 1 year away from her college entrance exams. Frustrated by her lack of ambition, I took time off to accompany her for the abortion, cared for her during her hospital stay, prepared nourishing meals, and helped her recover. After her discharge, to ensure she could focus on her exams, I even quit my long-held job to support her through her studies. Fortunately, she performed well in the exams, got into her dream university, and later landed a job at a Fortune 500 company. On the day she was promoted to manager, she prepared a table full of dishes to thank me for my efforts. But when I drank the glass of red wine she handed me without suspicion, I was poisoned and died. Her eyes brimmed with venom as she spat, "If you hadn't forced me to abort back then, Lucas Mitchell would be marrying me today. You made me lose the love of my life." Turns out, she had always believed I stood in the way of her true love. After I was reborn, when she once again fantasized about a happy life with her child and true love, I no longer scolded her, just smiled. Chapter 1. The red wine burned like fire in my stomach, making me sweat profusely, as if millions of ants were gnawing at my organs. I collapsed to the ground, every slight movement intensifying the pain tenfold. My throat tightened, and a metallic, spicy taste oozed from the corner of my mouth. In agony and confusion, I stared at Hannah Bailey, the sister I had raised with blood, sweat, and tears, and gasped, "Why poison me? Why had she poisoned me?" Hannah and I had met in an orphanage. I was 7 years older, and with no parents, we clung to each other as family. At 16, I started working and, once I could support myself, took Hannah out of the orphanage. Having only finished middle school before entering the workforce, I struggled constantly at work. To spare Hannah that hardship, I spent most of my earnings on her education and tutoring. The rest went to her living expenses, while I survived on plain steamed buns. We endured the hardest times together, forming a bond deeper than blood. Just an hour earlier, I had been overjoyed that our suffering had finally paid off. My sister, who had never cooked before, prepared a table of my favorite dishes and even ordered my beloved cake. Why? I still couldn't understand. Hannah burst into deranged laughter, as if I'd told a hilarious joke, her gaze full of scorn and hatred. "Sis, Lucas got married today. If you hadn't forced me to abort back then, he would never have married someone else. He said he only loved me. This is all your fault." The pain blurred my thoughts, but her mention of the abortion brought back memories of that summer before her senior year. As a soon-to-be high school senior, Hannah shouldn't have had time for a part-time job, yet she defied me and took one anyway. Turned out, the job was just a cover, she was actually dating. Underage, she had slept with someone and gotten pregnant. Panicked, she came to me for help. Disappointed, I made the decision for her: abort the child and cut off contact with that boy. A guy who cared only about pleasure without consequences was trash. The pregnancy couldn't leak, or the gossip would ruin her studies and future. The baby absolutely could not stay. I fabricated an excuse to get her a month off school, took her for the procedure, and exhausted myself caring for her. Yet now, she hated me for it, enough to poison me. Rage made me want to scream at her, but the pain left me wordless. All I could do was glare. After all my sacrifices, I'd raised a viper. Resentment flooded my mind. The pain worsened, my body convulsing. The metallic taste in my throat grew stronger, more blood spilling from my lips. Slowly, I stopped breathing, consumed by bitterness. Chapter 2. My eyes flew open. The pain from before still felt hauntingly real. I touched the corner of my mouth, no blood. Swallowing, there was no metallic taste. "Sis, what's wrong?" The familiar voice pulled me back to reality. I turned and saw Hannah in her school uniform, staring at me with wide eyes. My breath hitched. What was happening? Had I been reborn? "Sis, don't be mad. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I know I messed up. What should I do now?" Hannah's voice trembled with tears. Then it hit me, this was the day Hannah came to me, panicked and clueless after finding out she was pregnant. She must have mistaken my shock for anger over her pregnancy. Staring at her now, I wanted nothing more than to strangle her. But no, murder was illegal. This time I'd live for myself and stay far away from this viper. Suppressing my hatred, I forced a disappointed sigh. You. What on earth happened? Seeing my familiar, loving sister act, Hannah burst into tears and spilled everything. Hannah was naturally gifted. She had gotten into the city's top high school based on her stellar exam scores. She was fiercely independent and diligent in her studies, but her orphan status made her a target for bullying. I'd gone to her school multiple times to complain to the teachers. That same loneliness also left her starved for affection. Then Lucas appeared, a ray of light in her dark world. Lucas was the youngest son of a wealthy family. His grades were abysmal, and if not for his family's money, he never would have gotten into that school. With that privilege, he openly defied teachers, who dared not discipline him. Studying was the last thing on his mind, not that he needed it. People like him had endless options, even without college. Hannah and Lucas met at the water dispenser. When yet another classmate cut in front of her, Lucas stepped in, scolding the offender. From then on, they grew closer. Hannah's fragile yet resilient nature, paired with her academic excellence, fascinated Lucas. Meanwhile, the spoiled, aimless rich boy showered her with lavish attention. When did I realize something was off? Probably when Hannah came home, and every other word out of her mouth was Lucas. As her sister, I sat her down for a serious talk. I warned her that the college entrance exams were too crucial to risk for a fling. Romance could wait until after, it wasn't worth throwing away her future. Hannah just laughed and assured me she knew better. She swore it wouldn't affect her studies, she was just grateful for Lucas's help that one time. Her bright smile and promises eased my worries. After all, her grades had always been reliable. Little did I know, the same girl who swore she only felt gratitude would accept his confession the next second and dive headfirst into a whirlwind romance. Lunch breaks were spent in secluded pavilions, feeding each other bites of food. Evening self-study sessions? Skipped for hand-in-hand walks on the dark sports field. Weekends? Excuses about studying at the library turned into dates with Lucas. Even taking out the trash became a 2-hour disappearance. And now, despite my objections, she had insisted on working a summer job at Lucas's family hotel, only to end up pregnant. Chapter 3. Sis, what should I do? This baby is the proof of mine and Lucas's love. It's a living being. Hannah wiped her tears, gently caressing her stomach as she sobbed. In my past life, my immediate response was to reject that idea. I spent hours explaining how difficult her life would be if she kept the baby, persuading her until she finally agreed to the abortion. Then I took time off work to arrange the hospital visit and stayed home to care for her afterward. To help her recover, I spent my savings on nourishing meals, cooking different tonics every day to strengthen her body. I comforted her, trying to lift her spirits. To protect her reputation, I covered for her at school, ensuring no one ever found out. I treated her like my own sister, no, like a daughter, exhausting myself to give her the best care. I never expected anything in return, I only wanted us to build a better life together. Yet I never imagined she would grow to hate me for it. The memories made my breath quicken with anger. Seeing my silence, Hannah mistook it for inattention and repeated her question. I steadied myself and met her gaze. Hannah, you're almost an adult. You should make your own choices. What do you want to do? Whatever you decide, I'll support you unconditionally. I wouldn't make the mistake of deciding for her again. People always say not to interfere in others' choices, that if you do, they'll blame you for every misfortune that follows. I never believed it until my last moments, when Hannah screamed at me like I was some villain who had forced her into that abortion, as if she'd had no say at all. That's when I understood, she was the type to curse the world for her suffering but never look inward. If I convinced her to keep the baby now, she'd eventually blame me for whatever hardships came next. Who knows what she might do to me then? I refuse to be her scapegoat again. This time, I'll watch. Let's see if keeping this child gives her the happy life she claimed I stole from her. Chapter 4. Hannah hesitated visibly after hearing my words. She muttered to herself about the downsides of keeping the baby, how people might judge her for being an underage mother, whether she could still attend university, how hard it would be to find work with just a high school diploma, and how she could barely support herself, let alone a child. I smirked coldly on the side. So she did understand that keeping this child would bring nothing but hardship. She just wanted someone else to make the decision for her, so that if life turned sour because of it, she could shift all the blame onto that person. That way, she could play the victim, the powerless one who had no choice but to obey. Listening to her list all the cons of keeping the baby, I started to worry she might actually come to her senses and choose abortion. And I really wanted to see how her life would turn out if she went through with the pregnancy this time. To nudge her subtly toward keeping it, I thought for a moment and asked, "Who else have you told about this? Does Lucas know?" Hannah lowered her head. "I haven't dared to tell him yet, sis." I suppressed the urge to roll my eyes. In my past life, I never even considered having Hannah inform Lucas. The fewer people who knew, the better for her reputation. But now? Things were different. You're both almost adults. He should know. He's the father, he has a right to be part of this decision. The two of you should discuss it together. I met her gaze with sincere concern, speaking in a deliberately measured tone. Then, feigning lightness, I added, "Doesn't he love you? He always stood up for you at school. And his family's wealthy, raising a child shouldn't be hard for them. Besides, would he really let you suffer through an abortion?" As I spoke, I watched her from the corner of my eye. Her expression shifted, brightening at the vision of a happy future with Lucas. My heart swelled with dark satisfaction, but I kept my face neutral. "Yes. Keep it. Keep the baby. Let's see if this life plays out the way you imagined in your last one, now that I'm no longer standing in your way." Hannah called Lucas the light in her dark life, the one who gave her hope. Yet all my years of sacrifice? She took them for granted, dismissed them. And in the end, she poisoned me, left me to die in agony. How laughable. I continued steering the conversation, amplifying Hannah's longing for a fairy tale ending with Lucas. Bit by bit, I reinforced her resolve to keep the child. Chapter 5. At that time, Hannah would occasionally share sweet moments between her and Lucas with me. Back then, I thought their relationship must be like the most beautiful depiction of adolescence in TV dramas. But the more I listened, the more I sensed another strange emotion in her words, face. That's right. Being with Lucas gave her a lot of face. Hannah was an orphan. Though we relied on each other, we weren't blood related, and middle school students were never short of gossip. Because of Hannah's background and her reclusive personality at school, her classmates looked down on her, whether openly or secretly. When Lucas, who was popular among many girls, suddenly confessed to her, it naturally gave the insecure Hannah a huge boost in pride. What's more, Lucas was a rich kid and spared no expense while pursuing her. This satisfied Hannah's vanity immensely. Once someone has tasted something good, they're reluctant to let it go, especially someone like Hannah, who was extremely focused on personal gratification. Though she constantly claimed that she and Lucas were truly in love and that he adored her completely, deep down, she was terrified that Lucas might suddenly stop loving her. If that happened, everything she enjoyed because of him would vanish, and after the breakup, she might even become the laughingstock of the entire school. This child was like a lifeline she clung to, ensuring Lucas couldn't leave her. If Hannah hadn't yet considered using a child to tie a man down, my subtle hints planted the idea in her mind, and it instantly took root and flourished. Chapter 6. Sister, I've decided. I'm going to keep the baby. It's the fruit of mine and Lucas's love. She gently stroked her belly, her face full of longing. Lucas loves me so much. He'll definitely be thrilled when he hears I'm pregnant. The three of us will live happily ever after. After hearing her words, I had to pinch my thigh hard to keep from laughing. Her mind was clearly untouched by the harsh realities of society. She made everything seem so simple. She genuinely believed that with this child in her belly and Lucas's empty words of love, she could really become the cherished young wife of a wealthy family. Maybe I had protected her too well, shielding her from life's hardships. At just 17, how could Hannah possibly understand the complex web of interests in society? "Sister, I'm going to find Lucas and tell him the good news." After her moment of reverie, Hannah couldn't wait to leave and share this good news with Lucas. Watching her hurried figure, I couldn't help but look forward to the expression on that playboy's face, the one she thought adored her completely, when he heard she was pregnant. A rich kid who treated relationships as a game, suddenly finding out he'd accidentally knocked someone up, would he still be able to fake that lovesick expression for Hannah? That's right. The love Hannah prided herself on was nothing more than an act by a spoiled rich boy. In my past life, while Hannah was unconscious after her surgery, I went to school to ask for leave on her behalf. By chance, I saw Lucas Mitchell and his buddies laughing and joking in the break room. Thinking of Hannah lying weak on the hospital bed, I couldn't contain my anger and decided to confront Lucas. Just as I entered the break room, I heard the boys praising Lucas for how easily he'd hooked the academically brilliant Hannah. Lucas smirked, his eyes full of mockery, and said, "It wasn't hard. Girls like her are desperate for love. Just act a little devoted, and they'll fall head over heels." But honestly, she wasn't anything special, a bit stiff, but with some training in bed, she had her charms. The boys in the break room burst into laughter. Someone asked if he'd used protection. He scoffed, "What's the fun in that?" My anger flared upon hearing this. Ignoring the shocked gasps around me, I stormed in, grabbed Lucas by the collar, and dragged him to an empty spot. I slapped him hard across the face, calling him a despicable bastard. Back at the hospital, I initially planned to expose Lucas's true nature to Hannah. But seeing her fragile condition, I worried the truth might devastate her further, so I kept it to myself. Later, after Hannah recovered and returned to school, she never mentioned Lucas again. I assumed she had moved on and saw no reason to bring him up, not wanting to reopen old wounds. It wasn't until my past life's final moments, when Hannah, in her venomous rant, accused me of forcing her to abort the symbol of her and Lucas's love and claimed I'd driven him away, that I realized she had told Lucas about the pregnancy after all. And how did he respond? By breaking up with her, accusing her of making the decision to abort without consulting him, claiming it proved she didn't value their love. He even lied, saying I'd publicly humiliated him at school, slapping him and ordering him to stay away from her. From that moment, Hannah's hatred for me festered. She convinced herself I'd destroyed her chance with Lucas. But with him gone, I was her only means of survival, so she buried her resentment, until the day Lucas married someone else. Then, it all erupted. Talk about cursed luck, raising such an ungrateful viper. Now, I couldn't wait to see Lucas's reaction when he heard about her pregnancy. Chapter 7. Hannah left and didn't return for hours. I wasn't worried. When mealtime came, I cooked myself a proper meal and enjoyed it alone. This time, I hadn't quit my job for her. In my past life, when I handed my resignation to the CEO, he'd been reluctant to let me go. "You've been here for years," he'd said. "The company values you." But back then, all I could think about was supporting Hannah through her exams. I turned down his offer. After quitting, I burned through my life savings to cover our expenses that year. By the time Hannah finished her exams, my funds were nearly gone. I tried returning to my old company, but a year's gap in my resume made me an easy reject. To pay for Hannah's tuition, I took up the same grueling, low-wage jobs I'd worked as a teen. Now? I still had my career. My weekends were mine. No more backbreaking labor. The freedom was intoxicating. When Hannah finally returned, her mood was off. I was on a work call with a client and ignored her. After hanging up, she approached me, sniffling. "Lucas said, he doesn't want the baby to interfere with my exams. He wants me to get rid of it." Her eyes were red-rimmed, heartbroken. "He's just worried about my future," she added, still making excuses for him. I bit back my irritation. If Lucas truly loved her, how could he ask her to endure this? Didn't he know the stigma an underage pregnancy would bring? But I kept my tone gentle. He has a point. It's your choice, though. If you decide to go through with it, I'll take time off to accompany you. Please, don't change your mind. The next day, Hannah's pregnancy became public knowledge. During morning exercises, she collapsed from exhaustion and was sent to the school clinic, where the truth was discovered. Rumor had it their homeroom teacher turned pale upon hearing the news. Word spread like wildfire. The school, terrified of the scandal, went into damage control. Assemblies were held warning students against gossip, and online forum posts about the incident were swiftly deleted. Administrators interrogated Hannah, demanding she name the father. But Hannah, still shielding her true love, refused to talk. However, given Lucas's notorious presence at school, it didn't take long for them to pinpoint him. Yet without Hannah's confession, and considering the Mitchell family's hefty donations, including several campus buildings, the school couldn't punish him. In the end, to protect its reputation, the school expelled Hannah for violating conduct policies. When the news reached me, I was leisurely enjoying afternoon tea with colleagues. Hearing her sobs over the phone, I suppressed the urge to roll my eyes and softened my voice. "Hannah, don't cry. Calm down first. I'll come home as soon as I finish work." I hung up and savored the rest of my tea. Chapter 8. After her expulsion, Hannah camped outside the school daily, waiting for Lucas. But he dodged her like a debtor evading collectors. She'd sacrificed everything, her future, her dignity, to protect him, refusing to name him even as she was kicked out. Now, abandoned and bombarded with judgment, the hormonal turmoil and humiliation pushed her over the edge. She began screaming at the school gates that Lucas was the father. The very secret she'd guarded with her expulsion, she now raged about publicly. She begged me to intervene, but I wanted no part in this mess. When my company announced a 5-month overseas assignment, I volunteered immediately. Let her handle her own choices. Respect others' fates, don't interfere. Truer words were never spoken. Yet her outburst at school wasn't enough. Hannah took her theatrics to Mitchell Corp's headquarters, wailing that the youngest heir had seduced an orphan, gotten her pregnant, and abandoned her. Crowds gathered. Videos went viral, with hashtags like #RichBoyExploitsPoorGirl fueling outrage. Rival corporations amplified the scandal, making Hannah an overnight internet martyr. The Mitchell stock plummeted. They summoned Hannah, offering $10 million for a public retraction and an abortion. But Hannah, with nothing left to lose, refused. She didn't want money, she wanted to marry Lucas, to become a Mitchell. Her ultimatum? Let her in, or she'd sue Lucas for rape, demand lifelong child support, and parade their love child in society, ensuring no respectable family would ever wed him. After a prolonged standoff, the Mitchell family finally compromised. They agreed to let Hannah marry into the family and hastily arranged a lavish engagement ceremony for the couple. Publicly, they announced that the wedding would take place as soon as both reached the legal age for marriage. Following the engagement, Hannah and Lucas appeared before the media, all smiles, affectionately dismissing her earlier meltdown at Mitchell Corp as nothing more than a lover's quarrel. The internet swiftly shifted its tone. Netizens gushed. Even the young master can make his girlfriend angry. His apology? A grand proposal. A love story from campus to marriage, so sweet. Overnight, the backlash against the Mitchells vanished, replaced by adoration for the couple. Hannah now traveled with bodyguards, fans clamoring for selfies wherever she went. Her vanity swelled with the attention. For 4 months, she basked in this gilded life, even calling me to gloat about how perfect everything was, how everyone catered to her whims, how cherished she felt. On the other end of the line, I scrolled through headlines about her, watching the tide turn. Negative reports piled up, though Hannah remained oblivious. The Mitchells' gilded cage had lulled her into certainty that she was their future daughter-in-law. When my indifference bored her, she hung up. I set down my coffee by the window, gazing at the glittering skyline, a testament to generations of effort. And here was Hannah, an aunt, daring to threaten the Mitchells. If they'd initially hoped to buy her off, they now wanted blood. The best way to destroy someone? Lift them high, so the fall shatters them. Yet Hannah, still dreaming, flooded social media with her luxury hauls. Hubby gifted another sports car, ugh, so annoying. Thanks to my in-laws for this gold set. #blessed. Her comments overflowed with envy and admiration. On New Year's Eve, 5 months pregnant, Hannah posted a birthday tribute to herself, 18 and thriving. Her plump, radiant face oozed contentment. But behind the scenes, the Mitchells had spent months quietly feeding the media damning stories, painting Hannah as volatile, manipulative, unhinged. Old clips of her screaming outside their offices resurfaced, now framed as proof of her instability. She demanded marriage, but Lucas refused to disrupt her exams, so she lost it. Alleged insiders piled on. She throws tantrums, threatens suicide if Lucas disagrees. The Mitchells only tolerate her out of pity. The comment sections turned venomous. Knew she was nuts from that first video. Ex-classmate here, she blackmailed him into dating her. Fired a maid over bedsheet colors. Psycho. The Mitchells are saints for putting up with this gold digger. Hannah's fairy tale was unraveling, and she didn't even know it. Chapter 9. After Christmas, another news story about Hannah popped up on my feed. She had slipped on a freshly mopped staircase, tumbled down the steps, and suffered a massive hemorrhage. By the time someone found her and rushed her to the hospital, the baby was already gone. She remained in surgery, fighting for her life. The Mitchell family reportedly spared no expense, hiring the city's best doctors to save her. Though she survived, the accident left her permanently unable to bear children. When Hannah woke up, she flew into a rage, accusing the housekeepers of deliberately leaving the stairs wet to make her fall. She claimed that after she collapsed, the maids in the living room ignored her cries for help, leaving her in agony until she'd passed out. But the Mitchells dismissed her claims, telling the public that grief over losing the child had distorted her mind. According to them, all the maids had been out shopping with Lucas's mother that day, and the only caretaker left behind had been banished to the garden for weeding as punishment for a mistake, hence why no one witnessed the fall. Of course, no one believed Hannah. After months of negative press, her reputation was in ruins. Even as she grew increasingly paranoid and unstable from the trauma, the Mitchells took her back home, insisting they still recognized her as their daughter-in-law. The rumors swirled that she frequently lashed out at Lucas over their lost child. To outsiders, their relationship seemed irreparably broken. Finally, Lucas took to social media to announce their separation. "Thank you all for your support and concern during this difficult time. The loss of our child was beyond anyone's control, and now, Hannah and I have reached the end of our journey together." He covered his face, too heartbroken to continue. His vague statement left the public convinced Hannah had wronged him. Comments flooded in. "Mr. Lucas was failed by that trash woman. My heart breaks for him. Don't cry over that unhinged psycho, Lucas. He still loves her, maybe they can reconcile?" No. Miscarriage or not, her daily tantrums are unforgivable. Move on, King. Dump her. I always said she looked sketchy. Reading the reactions, I sighed. The world really does love coddling men. But none of that concerned me anymore. My recent assignment had been a resounding success, earning me a promotion to department manager. Tonight, my colleagues and I were celebrating at a 5-star hotel, glasses raised, my future brighter than ever. Chapter 10. Hannah was kicked out of the Mitchell family, homeless, with nothing left to bargain. The loss of her child had stripped her of all leverage. Returning from work, I nearly jumped at the sight of her huddled at my doorstep, gaunt and unrecognizable. When she spotted me, she tried to stand but collapsed, legs numb from crouching too long. Biting my lip to keep from laughing, I dug up the saddest memory I could to keep my expression neutral. "Sis, that bastard Lucas and his family set me up. I've lost everything. She clutched my pant leg, sobbing. Disgust quailed in my gut, but I resisted kicking her away. Instead, I brought her inside, handing her water to calm down. Just as I pondered how to handle her, my phone rang. A work emergency demanded my immediate return. Grabbing my keys, I tossed there's food in the fridge over my shoulder and left. By the time I finished overtime at 10 p.m., I returned to a table spread with dishes Hannah had prepared. "Sis, wash up. Dinner's ready," she chirped. At the table, I waited, watching her take the first bite before picking at my food. "You're so busy with work, even when I'm like this," Hannah said bitterly. "Work matters." I was too exhausted to humor her. She ranted, "All I wanted was to be with Lucas. Why did they do this to me? No college, no baby, everyone online calls me a lunatic, my life is over." Studying her sallow, sickly face, I recalled her past life. Post-abortion, she'd aced her exams, entered a top university, and landed a Fortune 500 job. Yet none of that filled her emotional void. Learning of Lucas's marriage, she'd poisoned me in a fit of rage. Cutting her off, I said, "You're an adult, Hannah. Use your brain. If Lucas loved you, why'd he knock you up before exams? If the Mitchells wanted you as their daughter-in-law, why not agree immediately? Stop deluding yourself." She froze, then lifted her drink with a hollow smile. I clinked my glass against hers and sipped. Her eyes darkened. "Why didn't you make me abort it, sis? Are you happy I failed? Happy everyone hates me?" Her voice escalated to a scream. "You didn't stop me. I hate you. Your life's perfect now, but mine's ruined." "Why?" I watched, silent, as she unraveled. Last life, guiding her was wrong, this life, not guiding her was wrong. She'd always blame others, casting herself as the victim. Pathetic. Her fury faltered as confusion crept in. I smirked. "Surprised I'm not convulsing?" From behind me, I produced the real drink. I'd swapped them. After last life's betrayal, I'd installed hidden cameras everywhere. Watching the feed from work, I'd seen her spike my beverage and bought a replacement on my way home. Sirens wailed outside. Her face paled. "I sent the footage to the police before walking in. They loved the part where you poisoned me." I waved my phone, displaying the police report. Thanking her for the attempted murder, really, it let me return the favor. Last life, she threw away a brilliant future. Now, she'd savor the opposite. Chapter 11. Today marks Hannah's second year in prison. This past year, I led my team to smash project after project. My CEO, thrilled, promoted me twice. My earnings now guarantee a work-free future. In a few years, I'll resign to travel the world, something death stole from me last time. This life? I'm taking it all back.